Welcome to Hello Me, It's Me, Vulnerable AF, a podcast hosted by Nikki D. Lovely. That's really just her diary disguised as a podcast, but who cares? You're here for it. Join in as she addresses her self-reflections on life, love, and dating, and gives us all the tea by being more vulnerable than she ever has with herself and the world. So let's get started in today's episode with Nikki D. Lovely. Already in progress.
Right. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hello Me. It's me, Vulnerable as F. Today I have Nicole. Do we call you Nicole whenever we come on? What
Yeah.
is-
Girl, Nicole is that, Nicole, because you're Nikki. Well, you're
So
Nikki to
we
me.
have
You might be Nicole to everybody else, but you Nikki to me. So I don't get.
Nikki. I'm Nikki to everybody. I don't even, when people call me Nicole, I look at them like, okay, you don't know me.
And that's funny because if somebody calls me Nikki, I'm looking at them like, excuse
We don't know each other on that basis.
right. I have only allowed one person in my life to call me Nikki, and I don't even know why I let her. I think she's one of those things where she just did it and refused not to not do it. And I just was like, whatever.
That's so funny. But yeah, so Nicole's on again today, and we have a really great topic today. And I say it from the standpoint of we are both going through the same, she calls it the parallel universe, where we're both
Right.
going through the exact same thing at the same time. I
What's
got a
that?
30-day notice.
The Marvel? What are they? The multiverse.
Yeah, for sure. Same name, same linear healing path, both
Man,
30-day notices and coming back home to the parent temporarily because I
yes,
already I already know this is not a permanent
heavy
situation.
on temporary.
Very heavy on the temporary, but we wanted to make sure that we present it because I know a lot of times. I remember, I'm not gonna lie. The first time I came home, I was, I think my youngest was 4, and I was going through some financial stuff at the time. And I came back home with a bunch of shame. And this time is a little different because I didn't have any healing. I hadn't gone to therapy. And so I went to therapy to kind of get rid of that shame. This time coming back home is completely different because I feel like I've gone through my healing journey,
Yeah.
but I feel like this is my test. I think because I didn't finish my healing journey until after I left my parents. And so moving back in with them, I've been kind of avoiding them, trying to stay away from the irritation or the quote unquote problems that I had with them or the things that stemmed from being with them. And so now I'm being pushed back into that. And you are too,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. Absolutely. Funny. Again, we talk about the multiverse. I had went back to my mom's when my oldest, he's 11 now, he was only 6 months at the time. So about 10 years ago, we were, at the time I was married. So me, my husband, and my oldest, we had moved back in with my mom, but it wasn't nothing financial. We didn't have to be there. It was one of those things where he wanted to get out of the apartment that we were in. I told him, let's do it, but you got to find us a new place. And he didn't find us a new place. But by that time, the leasing company had released us. We just kind of moved in with my mom. And so we were able to get out. And so that was really the focus while we were there, was just we're getting out, we're saving up, we're moving, we're going to find another place. That was
Oh,
so it
right.
wasn't really a lot of, and I wasn't healing. I didn't even know I needed healing at that time. I
Oh,
wasn't really
yeah.
doing therapy. So I was just kind of coexisting, and I was already in my people pleasing mode with my mom specifically.
Mhm.
So for me, it was just kind of like, business as usual. Now, this time I have, in the last 5 to 7 years, I have been on this healing journey. Like you were saying, and a big part of it was recognizing that there was a lot of hurt that I experienced as a child that I had never really acknowledged until I got into therapy.
Wait, how long did you stay there?
It's about a year, not even a full year. We were there about, I was there about 3 to 4 months before we saved up the money, the first and last month's rent and the security deposit. And then it took us like another 3 to 6 months to find a
Mhm.
place, because this was right around the time where the No. This was, let me see, back in 2017. So this is around the time where the housing market was pretty bad, and so renters, the people who had homes that they was renting out, had the advantage. So every place that we would go to, they was like, we just rented. We just, and so like it literally took 6 months to find a place.
Yeah, that's what's so
And I
crazy
think,
about California. It's horrible,
yeah,
the market.
it
I
was,
I don't care when it is in California. Seems like it's always
yeah,
really bad trying to find a spot.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was the first time, and now we're back at the house and with mom again. You didn't say how it went the first time though. How did that go?
The first time it wasn't bad because, like I said, I don't know if to give context, me and my mom I was in this mode of being a people pleaser. And
Oh,
so I
right.
did everything. I lived my life according to what I thought my mom wanted me to be.
Wanted of you.
So I just steered cleared. I did whatever she wanted. I did whatever she didn't want. I steered clear
Right.
of things that she didn't want me to do. I was very much already in that space. And then, she was
Right.
just in love with the baby. And so it actually was not a lot of stress the first time
Okay.
around. But
Okay.
since then, when me and
You've
my
grown a lot.
ex-husband, yeah, that's when the thing broke, when I started realizing, like, oh, wait a minute, I don't like this person that I am because it's not genuine to who I actually am. And oh, by the way, a lot of the stuff that my mom does is offensive. Oh, by the way, we're not aligned the same mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And so me and my mom went through a very tough season, and we're kind of still going through that tough season of where she's like, I don't know who you are. And I'm like, neither do I. That's the whole point of it. Like, I'm trying to figure out who I am. And I was thinking about it last night, and I was like, and I just wanted to be accepted. This person that I'm
Yeah.
trying to be, I just want my mom to accept that part of me, even if it's hard for her, even if I
Mhm.
disagree, even if, we're not on the same page.
Mhm.
And so when we
Yeah.
talk about that little girl, I realized through therapy, through a lot of my self-esteem issues that I was trying to overcome, I realized that there was a little girl, like around maybe when I was 6, 7, and 8, that when I was starting to try to become who I wanted to be or who I should have been, if
Mhm.
I did something that my mom didn't agree with or she didn't like, it was just that. And I think maybe it's a generational thing. They
Yeah.
just believe change the behavior. I don't like that. Change the
Right.
child's behavior. And so they
Right.
do all the things to kind of manipulate the situation to
Mhm.
change the behavior instead of trying to understand, like, is this a habit that should be changed, or is this a personality trait that will ultimately be something that she could use in the future if this is supposed to
Right.
be who she's supposed to be? So that's really what's happening now. Is I have this opportunity that now that I've moved back in with her, I'm presented with the opportunity to advocate for that little girl that I didn't advocate for because I didn't know to. You're 8, you don't know to just some kids do lean into that rebellion and they don't care. And they come out.
Thing is can you?
Yeah.
If you're not giving free open space to do that, and I won't. Okay, I'll say culturally. Culturally, minorities
Mm,
homes aren't given the same freedoms to just express ourselves the way we want to express ourselves. It's very much, you do as I say, you do as you're told, and you better not act out. And if you act out, you're not going to live in this house. They don't have a problem telling you what your consequences are going to be. And your consequences are always pretty extreme. Whereas
yeah.
if you go to other cultures, and I'll put that in quotes, to some other cultures in quotes, you'll have like, okay, young man, you're not going to talk to me like that. Go to your room. And that's the consequence. And it's like, that's fine because in my room I have a TV, I have a
Yeah.
Game Boy, I have a PS4 to play with. You know what I'm saying? But I wanted to go to my room
Right.
anyway. So
Well, I think the space part is very vital. What you said, they're given the space to express what's natural to a child. It's
right.
natural for a child to buck up. It's natural for a child to, to talk back and to do that. And like you said, culturally, we get punished for doing what's actually natural, whereas the quote unquote, like you said, others, they get the space to understand the behavior and then address the behavior. I think
Yes.
that's what we fail to do as a culture, is that we just change the behavior. Oh, I don't like you talking back. That's disrespectful.
Right.
Disrespect is subject. What's
It is.
disrespectful to you ain't disrespectful to the next person. So how are you teaching a 4-year-old what respect and disrespect is, but yet
Right.
holding them accountable at that age?
Right. And it comes from two spaces. Like you say, one is if we go back to history culturally. I was talking to a psychologist that studied Black history, and she was saying that a lot of the things that our parents carried down were carried down to us from slavery.
Yeah.
And that was you can't talk back, because if you do talk back to massa, you might not be here tomorrow. So
Yeah,
I to get this under control here at the house. And then there's a lot of
absolutely.
generational trauma that's been passed down that our parents, the parents before them, the parents before them never got any therapy for.
Yeah.
So they're dealing with stuff that happened 3 or 4 generations ago that they don't even understand, that's been handed to them. And they haven't sat down to think, is this okay? And how do I change this? And we haven't had the confidence to stand up and say, listen, I understand that this is how this was done, but I did this when I had my kids, even when I was staying at the house. I was always okay speaking up for my kids. Not so much myself, but when it came to my kids, I would always say, hold up, I don't talk to them like that.
Yeah.
Like, this is how I do their discipline. And luckily my parents, to a certain extent, were like, okay, see how that might be a better way. I'm okay with leaning into that. But yeah, it also, like you said, it takes having to have a little bit of therapy or self-awareness and being able to speak to them in order to get to that place.
Well, I think that's beautiful that you were able to, advocate for your child, even with your parents. Because for me, I know that I still kind of have that freeze up mode
Mhm.
when it comes to myself, or like when you were mentioning, like when it comes to yourself. Yeah,
Mhm.
anybody can do it for your kids. I guess
Right.
a specific situation was my mom, went in there and just made dinner, but she made like the dinners that we had growing up. And my kids were like, I don't want it. I don't like it. And she
Oh
was,
no.
trying to force them, kind of like what
Oh,
we did generation,
yeah.
like she did with us or that. And I understand why that generation. That let me like at least preference that. I understand that they did the best that they could with what they had. There was a lot of resources that they didn't have access to, and they definitely didn't have the understanding of the long-term effects of that
Right.
type of, rhetoric and behavior. But and then
Mhm.
budget, like financially, like they had to, feed a family of 5 for a month on a budget of like $20. So I
Right.
get it. You have to eat or you don't eat at all. But we're different nowadays. I'm like,
Mhm.
I'm not going to make, because of that, honestly, I'm not going to make my kid eat nothing that they don't want to eat. Because even as adults, we don't eat stuff that we don't want to eat. Why are we forcing
Right.
these children? I have the rule, if you try it, just try it. You never
You
know
have to
that
try.
you end up
Yep.
liking it. Just try it. That's the rule. If you try it and you decide you don't like it, that's
Then
fine.
you have
But if
to
you
eat it.
try it, yeah. And
Right.
sometimes, depending on what I might have cooked or made, I might say, okay, but this is your dinner for the night.
Right. Exactly.
But with my mom, she was like, no, you have to eat it. And then she went into the punishment mode. And I'm like, I don't make my kids eat stuff that they don't want. And,
Right.
I don't, tell them things like some of the subliminal messages like, well, we need to make healthier choices. That type
Mhm.
of rhetoric for me caused me to have an unhealthy relationship with food, to the
Right.
point that here I am in my 40s constantly obsessing about what I put in my body, feeling
Mhm.
guilty about the bad stuff I put into it, trying to act like the good stuff isn't nasty to me and, starving myself. And I believe it stemmed from that. So I was able
Mhm.
to stand up for them there. But when it
Yes.
comes to standing up for myself, I'm like, well, let me just keep the peace. I got to stay here for a little while.
Yeah.
I don't want to, be bucking up against my mom every chance I get. But I also am in the conundrum of, but if I don't, I failed that little girl that I didn't advocate for before. And I failed her again. And
Mm.
that's where I am now, back at home with my mom. And then I think too, we tend to, when it comes to confrontation with our parents, we want kind of like the Prince Charming story that we see on TV. I'm going to tell my mom that that hurt me, and she's going to say, "Oh, I can't believe that I did that. I'm so sorry." And we're
Right.
going to embrace, and then we'll live happily ever after as mother and daughter. When the reality of it is that when I've confronted her, it's very much been like a, "You did this to me, and you did that to me, and I
Uh,
feel this."
uh,
And so now it's like, that's not the response I expected or I thought we would have, you know?
yeah.
And now you're
I
confirming every fear that that little girl had.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I saw something yesterday. Actually, I reposted it on TikTok. The guy goes, "You can't have emotionally intelligent conversations with people who are not emotionally intelligent." And
Mm,
repeated it 3 times. You can't have emotionally intelligent conversations with people who are not emotionally intelligent, right?
right.
Listening to what you just said, your mom's response was, which was, well, you did this instead of, because a lot of times people are afraid of taking accountability. People who are not emotionally intelligent are not taking accountability for their actions. They're not saying, I hear you and let me sit with that.
Yeah.
They're hearing
Yeah.
blame. So the
Oh my
question
gosh. If
is,
we had a nickel for blame, we'd all be rich.
there you go. So the question is, how do you have a conversation with someone who hasn't done the work, who isn't on the same emotionally intelligent path that you're taking, because you're going toward enlightenment. I hate when people say that they're stuck in their ways, but they are. Even my dad, who's highly educated, who works in the medical space, he still frowns upon therapy. Like when I say I'm taking my daughter to therapy, he'll be like, ugh, like, well, he'll make jokes about it. Or if I say something about what my therapist said, he'll be like, oh, and your therapist told you that? It's very
Mm,
condescending, it's very dismissive. It's very like, well, I don't know why my kids would need therapy when I understand that I had things at 18 that I had gone through, not at the house. I don't have to look at it as taking my kids to therapy as a failure for me because there are things that they're just going through in life in general. I don't have to take that
yeah.
personally that my daughter wants to talk to someone else about a boy in her class or a girl that looked at her funny. I don't want to hear it all the time. I listen. I listen and I don't judge. Okay.
Right.
But I understand that she doesn't want to always just talk to mom and she wants another
Right.
adult she can trust. So they're not at that place where again, it's that culture thing that we're dealing with where therapy was taboo. Therapy meant something was wrong with you. They haven't accepted that point. So the emotional, and I hate to say this because my dad is highly intelligent everywhere else. And I will say he is very self aware. Like he'll go into a place if you bring something to him, he will maybe upset in the moment, but he will at least sit with it. But you do have to come at it from a different place. You can't come
Hmm.
at it with him at a place of bucketness, like you say, when you
Yeah.
buck up.
Nuck if
That's
you
not
buck.
the time, right? That's not the time or the place.
Yeah.
And for me, what I've learned is this is what you have to learn even with your own kids. And as a parent, you have also a different way of looking at things too, because now you know what it feels like. But you got to
Yeah.
come at it from I'm going to pick and choose my battles, not from I have to make sure I stand up for that little girl. I don't come at
Mm,
it from that space anymore. I come at it from the space of, I need to make sure that I am okay at all times. Because I know if I am not okay at all times, I can become that little girl again. And I don't want to be that little girl. Not from, I have to stand up for her. No. Because I don't always have to stand up for her anymore. I know that I didn't stand up for her when I was young. And there's nothing I can do about that now. But what I can do is make sure that I don't become her again.
Yeah.
And so from that standpoint, that's when I pick and choose my battles. If I do this, does that mean that I'm going to become her again?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then that's when we need to have a conversation. Or that's when it's okay for me maybe to buck up a little bit, right? But if the
Right.
answer is no, I have a lot of confidence in myself and my grounding exercises. And okay, it's time for me to leave. I stay in my room. It's not that I'm not courteous or what's the word where you go in and you talk to them. I talk to them as best as I can. And then if I need to, if the air is getting kind of thick and I don't like what's going on, I pick the girls up and say, okay, let's go to the library. Cause it seems like Nana and Granddaddy need some time to themselves so they can argue with themselves, you know? I'm quite okay with taking myself out of the equation.
Well,
It's just
I think that's good what you were saying, because when you were saying pick and choose your battles. For me,
mhm,
I think specifically with me and my mom's relationship, she's never had boundaries with me. I have
mm.
always given my mom free reign in my
Oh,
life,
yeah, the boundary things is a good
and
one.
yeah, so she's always had free reign, not only in my life, but in my boy's life too. Because when I would go
Yeah,
to work, she was the main caregiver, which means that
right.
she was getting more time with them and she was getting all the significant time. What's that word that imprinting. So she was getting all the
Mhm,
imprinting time on them and the bonding time. And then when I would get off of work, I'm just going right into like, well, let's get ready, let's take a bath, let's go. So I'm getting the work part of it, but she's
mm,
getting the good. Oh, we went to the park today and we did this today. And so I gave her free reign because I was very afraid that if I set a boundary with her, that the result of it was going to be punishment. And the punishment was icing me out, stonewalling me, not talking
yeah,
to me, ignoring me. And then when she was ready, sending me a scroll down text message or a scroll down email or something where now I've got to listen to how disappointed she was in something that I
yeah,
said or failed to do. And so now I'm very cognizant of, hey, Nicole, you have to set a boundary. And I guess that's where
mhm,
when I'm coming, because I'm like I said, I've only
mhm.
been there 2 weeks now. So I'm coming in hot
Dang,
because I'm like, no, I got to set the boundary. I got to set the boundary early. I got to make sure because I didn't do it before. And when
yeah,
I didn't do it before, it was problematic down the line because even now we're in the house. And one thing I'm experiencing, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but one thing I'm experiencing is that my boys are like, but Grammy said, as if Grammy's word trumps my word. And so now
mm,
it's like, I need to set this boundary with my mom so she understands that, one, we're not co-parenting. This ain't a
yeah,
co-parentship. I co with their dad. And two, they can abide by the rules of your house as long as it's within reason and it's understandable. And, you can have your time and you can have, your rules of you want them to address you for whatever reason. But ultimately, I'm doing the raising, I'm doing the pouring, I'm doing the teaching, and
mhm,
that boundary has to be set. And I think that's really, um, it's become a little bit of a problem with me and her, which is why we've had
mm,
our big blow up argument because I was like, I can't let this go because for me, I know myself well enough to know if I didn't say something in that moment, I would let it go and then something else will
mhm,
come up and I would get mad about it. And then I would let it go again. And before you know it, like you said, like you were saying, I become that little girl again who's giving my mom free reign to do what she
mhm,
wants, how she wants
mhm,
it, when she wants, but then also being afraid of that like invisible leverage. And then one of the things I didn't realize too, and I just started thinking about this recently when we talk about that invisible leverage is before I moved out of the house, like from the point I was 18 till I moved out at 24, there was this feeling of like, you gotta go, you gotta get out, you gotta go. What are you doing? You can't stay here. It was this constantly, well, are you moving in? Finding a place, even
right,
though I was working and going to school. It was
mm,
just this constant feeling. And this time my mom and dad were together at this time. They were both, consciously and subconsciously making me feel like
you need
I
to
got to
leave.
get out. you need to
Right.
leave. You're being a bum. But I'm like, I'm at
Right.
school 90% of
Right.
the time, and the other 10% I'm at work. Like, what do you mean?
Exactly.
But then it was like, oh, but then you have chores, and oh, you have a curfew. And I'm like, I'm
Yep.
22 with a curfew. These are the rules of my
Right.
house. And so I was like, I thought about it and it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, I've never felt welcome in my own home at that time. And that should have been my home. That was the only home I knew, and I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I was at home. So now that I'm back,
Mm.
I don't feel like it's home. And
Yeah.
like you said, heavy on the temporary. Like, I don't have no
Mhm.
solitude. Trying to find the solitude is insane. Like you say, you go into your room. Right now, I've got
Mhm.
1,000 boxes in my room from just
Mm.
moving. So it's like I can't even go in there. Literally sitting
Yep.
at the park now, like, well, maybe I'll get my solitude here.
Yep.
So I definitely am feeling that.
It's a great point you bring up about making the boundaries with your parents, because I will give you more credit than I think even for me, because I haven't had that boundaries conversation with them. For me, it's always about inserting myself when I think I'm needed with the kids. You're going to school, you're doing your work, then you got to come home and then you do chores. I feel like parents forget that you've been gone all day, and my parents are
Yeah.
retired. And my daughters
Mhm.
is take all AP classes. They've been going to school, and then they come home, and then my parents are like, "I need you to take that trash out." Well, what were you doing before they got here? You guys are taking the trash out on your own, you know?
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
boundary I have not set with them, because at the same time I do understand, they're older and they're from that school of you got to teach them some values. And one thing I will say about my kids is before we moved here, I never had to tell my kids to take trash out. They take the trash out. They empty the dishwasher. And the reason why they do that without me having to ask is because I don't get on their tails about when they have to do it. They don't have to do it when I tell them to do it. They
Oh,
see that the trash needs
that's
to be
good.
taken out. They take the trash out. They see that the dishwasher needs to be done. They may not do it when they see it, but if they come back down and I haven't done it, guess who already did it? One of them.
Yeah.
But my parents have this thing where it's like, nobody saw that this has been done, and then it's this passive aggressive yell into the air thing, or call one of them, and I'm just like, and that's not something I've sat down and just said. I'm just like, I even tell the girls, I'm like, all right, this is how a grandma and your grandpa are, right? And
Mhm.
when they have some of those times, I just allow them to vent to me. We just have a whole venting session, and just so that they know that that's how it is, and this is only temporary. So
Yeah.
is Nana in Granddaddy's house, and we're just abiding by their rules while they're there. And then if I can softly come in and say, like my dad came, my youngest is taking a college course, right? She's
Mhm.
online taking the class. And my dad comes in and is like, I need you to empty the dishwasher. Now, what's my dad doing? Absolutely nothing. Playing a game, watching TV. Have emptied the dishwasher? Of course he could have. But that old
Yeah.
school mentality of, I got to tell a child to
Yeah.
do this, comes in, and she's in the middle
Yeah.
of class. And so she tells him, she's like, okay, after I'm done with class. And he's like, oh, you're in class? Oh, I'm sorry. So then he leaves, and then I guess she gets up to take a bathroom break and comes back, and he wants to tell her like a whole spiel, and she's like, I'm still in class, you know? So I try to have a conversation with my mom about it, because now, and this is the other thing I'm seeing, so now when she comes home, she wants to go straight to the library. She don't want to come home because she doesn't want to
Yeah.
hear their mouth, because they
Yeah.
always going to have something
Yeah.
to say. Like, they always going to find something for them to do. It's very annoying. It reminds
Yeah.
me of when I was a child, you know? So I told them.
That
So
unrest, that feeling of unrest because I think culturally, like you said, culturally and generationally, they
yes.
feel like rest is like
Yes.
a bad word.
Yes.
Don't, it's lazy. Don't listen. I was moving, like, because I said
Mm,
10, I'm on the second week of being at my mom's house. And I did not have the funds to hire packers. I did not have the funds to hire movers. I did not have the
mm,
funds to do very much. And so I had to do
Right.
everything by myself. I have an 11-year-old that's on the spectrum and an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. So I'm not expecting them to do anything. And everybody
Right.
else is too far away or, they got their own life. So I'm literally
Yeah.
packing up 10 years of my life within a
Mm,
30-day span by
I
myself. And
know.
that last week was,
Mm,
1,000 trips back and forth to the thrift store to get rid of stuff, back and forth to storage,
yes.
back and forth to my
Yep.
mom's house, packing up. Like it was
Mhm.
physically exhausting. Physically, I
Mhm.
was worn out because I'm not doing like, oh, 2 hours here, 2 hours. I was for the whole week, I was doing like 12-hour days and
Yeah,
still
packing
mothering
is
in the
exhausting.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
exhausting. And then
It's
doing all the
exhausting.
regular stuff. Like it was my
Yeah.
my middle child's birthday, so we had to do his birthday party. And then, it was like I still had to do parent teacher conference and I had my own doctor's appointment and I had to take kids to dentist appointments. I'm still doing life while I'm physically doing this moving and packing. And I finally get everything moved into my mom's house. I turn the truck in. I get the boys to and from school. And I have one day where my body just said, you cannot get up. You cannot get up. You
Mhm.
are too tired. And I
Yep.
sat down on the chair in my mom's house and I'm scrolling. She can see that I'm scrolling.
Mhm.
I'm playing the games. I got the, Miss Rachel on for my toddler. So, I can keep him distracted so I can have some kind of rest. And,
Yeah.
but now my mom's activated because she's seeing all the mess around and all the, the
Yep.
boxes.
In
And
her
she comes
house.
in like, so
Yep.
can we get this cleared out? And I'm like, I'm so tired,
Yes.
so tired.
Yes.
But she was like, we don't have time for tired.
Right.
And I'm like,
Yep.
oh gosh.
Yep.
So it's like when you talk about that generation, like they feel the need to constantly keep you going.
Yeah.
It's not just I'm gonna stay on the move 100% of the
Yes.
time. I need everybody around me to be on the move 100% of the time. And we're in a generation where people are telling us like you need to rest
We
or
need
your
the
mind
rest.
is going to
Yes.
break down. Your body is going to betray you. You have to make time for rest. And they're like, no, rest doesn't exist. We don't do the rest
Yes.
thing around here.
That is a word right there. That in itself is its own podcast, just off rest alone and that generational
Yeah.
thing about rest. Because I will say that was the reason why I was the most heightened about coming back to the house because
Yeah.
my sleep schedule is completely off. Number one, because I feel weird resting if they're up. I can't sleep
Yes.
if they're up moving around. I gotta be up moving around too. Right? They gonna come in and find me sleep in the bed,
My
gotta be up.
God.
That's a childhood trauma right there. So just no. But they
That's
can
what they
sleep as
did to
long as they
us when
want.
we was kids.
Yeah, yeah. And will still do. And it's one of those
Yeah,
things where so when I got off on my own and moved to Louisiana, I had to learn how to rest. I had
yeah,
to learn how to be able to be okay sleeping until 2 o'clock if my body needed to sleep until 2 o'clock. And just
yeah.
be okay with that. It was ridiculous. And I let the girls rest. I let them hang out in bed the way that's what I mean, they do that. But girl, that's
Because that's
it's
what
crazy.
it's almost like we're trying to undo what our parents did for our kids. Like, I'm gonna
Yes.
let you rest because I didn't get that. Like every Saturday
Yep.
morning at 6 o'clock, gospel music is on, oldies is on, whatever, and we all just laboring.
Yeah.
We're laboring for hours. And it's like,
You better
okay,
find something to do. If you're not doing nothing, you better find something to do. I'm gonna
listen.
give you something to do.
You can go
Yeah.
on and clean them corners. That's what you can do. Get that toothbrush over there and scrub them corners down. And you're like, huh?
Right?
You can go in that clean that linen closet out. Huh? Like something has to be done.
To be done. It's always like, so what are you doing? I'm like,
Yeah. And it's like they're never satiated when it comes to it. Like, okay, where's the cutoff point? How much can I
right.
do for you to be like, okay, you've done your part? There's
Yeah.
never the goalpost is constantly moved.
Uh,
When you
yeah.
and when you talk about that trauma, it's real. And I think that's the biggest thing about
Mhm.
why I didn't
Yep.
really want to come back because it was
Nope.
like, I don't want to live under that again, not at my big age of 40 something plus,
Exactly.
having to feel like I got to get up and just be busy for
Yeah,
the
just
sake
look
of being
busy.
busy.
I just gotta go look busy.
I either got to look busy or I got to get out the house.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. One or the other,
I got to go scrolling my car down the street from
right?
I.
Yep. We'll say, what time's the library open? And then you get to the library and everybody is there too. And it's like, dang, y'all don't have a home to go to.
Right. Are you guys avoiding your parents too, like me? Okay. We should form a
A lot
club.
of
Support.
yeah.
But yeah, it's the challenge. I'm so glad to talk about this with you. And when you were saying, like, on Threads that you have people that are going through the same thing and, being hopefully being seen in these conversations. I don't know. What do you think going forward could be? I don't know, the mantra maybe, or the understanding? Because I know for me, when I think about my own personal journey with my mom, I came out of therapy. So I don't know if I told you, my therapist graduated me. She was like, I think you can handle it. So she graduated me a couple weeks ago. And my mantra has been, when I blame others or blame a situation for my circumstances, I render myself powerless. But
Yes.
I can take my power back by doing what I can do. And so that's what I'm trying to live by. But it's a challenge, because I'm like,
I,
what do I
go
do?
ahead. I love that. I do love that. It's for me, because I was going to say the same thing. For me, my thing is always this is just the plan B for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always have to keep in mind this is only temporary. And also, I keep in mind this is not, I don't have to be here. And when you
Yeah.
say that to yourself, that means that you have to if you don't have another option, you have to give yourself the other option. So,
Mm,
what's the other option? Because that's when we become powerless. It's like if I get into an argument, if I tell you something that you don't like, if that's how your mom is, and some people's parents are like that, even at this big old age, you're like, well, if you don't like
yeah.
my
Yeah.
rules, and it's that power dynamic, and they love throwing it in your face. You can
Yeah.
leave, and my mom used to say stuff to my kids, which to this day I don't like. And if I hear it now, because she used to say it, I haven't heard her say it since we've been back because I guess we haven't been back long enough. But she used to say, I guess I'm gonna have to kick y'all out my house. She would say that to my kids. And I used to
Mm,
hate that because it's a power
yeah.
play. I think my youngest daughter had told her teacher, but she actually told them that if it wasn't for my grandma, we would be homeless. And she's trying to say that she would kick us out again. So I remember having being called into that conversation. And I was like,
Wow.
whoa, so it's
Wow.
like that.
Yeah.
And you're talking to kids, and you don't
Yeah.
understand the type of fear that you're
Yeah.
inducing because they're like, grandma might be right about that. But so from that standpoint, I know if I ever heard her say that again, I would be like, okay, cool. I don't
Yeah.
have to be here.
Right.
Honestly, and I don't. I have options. Now, do I want those other options? Of course not. Like, do
Right.
I want to have to move to Louisiana, which is where all my stuff is anyway? No, I don't want to have to do that. But if that's something that has to be done, where I feel like at the end of the day, my daughters just cannot live like this, and I just cannot live like this, I'm gonna hop in the car and figure out a way to get back to Louisiana, right? That's
Yeah.
that's one option. I don't have to stay in California anymore. Or two, do I need to get a Airbnb away
Yeah.
from here for a month until I figure it out? A month or two until I figure it out. Do I want that option? No. But you have to
Right.
give yourself, you're grown now. So you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to give yourself that. Say, I'm not that little child. Because when you get back into these modes, it's easy for us to go back into child mode. The helplessness, the I gotta do what she
Mm,
says, and you forget I'm a grown ass adult. I do have options. So it's
yeah.
just reminding yourself that just because you're in a child's place, quote unquote, at mom's house again, doesn't mean that you're still a child.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I feel like when you're saying that, I resonate with that. I had actually saw, I don't know, I think I saw somebody's TikTok that was saying I was waiting for somebody to come and save me. And I think
Yep.
I have been living in that subconscious mindset pretty much all my life, waiting
Yep.
for somebody to save me, waiting for,
Yep.
a man to come and save me, waiting for my mom to save me, waiting for my dad to save me. And then it was like, no, I have to be my own hero. And so what can
Yes.
I do to save myself? And so it's kind of
Yep.
funny because like last week, I got a random call from a
Mhm.
social worker, left a voicemail. And so I called that immediately back. I was like, social worker is a very bad word when you have children. So I was like,
Right.
is everything okay? And she was like, well, I can help out with housing situations. And I'm like, I don't follow. What are you talking about? And she's like, when you've been evicted. And I was like, who told you that I was evicted? And she was like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I don't know. I guess I need to get to the bottom of this. You haven't been evicted. And I was like, no. And so
Mhm.
my thing was, I didn't say anything because technically I wasn't evicted, but I want to keep the boys in the school district at least to the
Mhm.
end of the year. So I didn't want to rock the boat as far as like having to get permits and, all that stuff the school districts can do.
Mhm.
But I asked my son, did you tell your teacher that we moved? And he's like, yeah, I was just feeling so bad about it. And so I'm thinking what happened was he just told her that the landlord made us move. And they took that
Mhm.
as eviction. And when I got
Mhm.
into it I said all that to say, when I got into it with my mom yesterday, I immediately thought what you were saying. I don't have to be here. I've got to figure out a way to get out of here. And I was like, you
Right.
know what? I could probably call that lady back and be completely
Right.
transparent and say,
Right.
okay, we didn't get an eviction notice. What we got was a 30-day get off the premises, like, because I'm selling the house.
Right.
But if you have options to help out, 'cause she was saying we can help out with placing homes when it comes to families. So I think it was
Mhm.
like specifically when it comes to families in our school district. So I was like, you
Right.
know what? That is where I will find my empowerment. I will ask
Yeah.
her because maybe she'll give me the resource that I need to help me. Or because one of the things
Mhm.
I'm stuck of and I didn't share is that I'm in between jobs. And so I
Yeah.
just got approved for I've got approved for schooling when I got the 30-day notice that's
Uh,
supposed to help me change into a different workforce. Then I did apply for another job, but it's a city job. So, that one takes a long time, to filter through. It's like I just took the test. And so now they got to go through all that. So, but I'm like, I need options. I need to know
yeah.
what my plan C's and my plan D and my plan E can
Right.
be so
Right.
that I don't, like you said, I don't feel that helplessness.
Exactly. You don't want to feel that powerlessness. It's like, okay, cool. There
Yeah.
are actions I can take. So what are my actions?
So I like that. I hate to cut this short because I gotta go pick up my kids from their dad's house. I think it was a good one. I think the part where we got into the whole like that cultural thing about parents not believing that anybody's deserving of rest. I don't know. That might be an episode all by itself.
It is. It's the episode all by itself. Resting and learning how to rest. Oh my gosh. The
But it
nervous
goes
system
back to
deregulation.
yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my god. And it goes back to what you were saying with the history teacher that was the
Mm-hmm.
slavery. It's something that was embedded
Yes, it is.
culturally in us
Yes, it
because
was.
trauma that we do regarding that
Yep.
because it's their oppression.
Right.
They had us doing their labor, so they didn't
Mm-hmm.
have to do it. A lot of people don't realize that the whole slave movement, the slave master dynamic wasn't just you get out there and do what I say. It was mind tricks that they were imposing,
Exactly.
mind
Yeah.
conditioning, and oppression that is
Mm-hmm.
still generationally affecting us that we don't even realize that that's a master's mentality. Like you're lazy,
Exactly.
you don't
That's
deserve
right.
rest, you work until
Yep.
you die, or you work
Yeah.
into your own detriment. And
Yep.
we're like, wait a minute, but if all men are created equal and
Mm-hmm.
you all find rest and resources to help you out, why can't we? And I
Exactly.
sometimes I look at my mom like, why would you not want me to have the soft life? Like I would like to
Get to your
like something
kid.
that if I had a daughter that I would want my daughter to have this soft life. And I'd be looking at the man like, hey, you gonna date my daughter? You know, she need to be passenger princess at all times.
At
Needs
all
to be,
times.
taking care of her
That's
at,
right.
at every cost.
But they
Absolute-
they come at it from the I had to do it, so you have to do it
Yeah.
too. Yeah. I hate
And they
that.
make it
I
like a
hate
rite of passage. It's like a rite
they
of
do
passage and a badge of honor. And
to
I think they
struggle.
Yeah, and they pass it down to both sides. They pass it
They
down to the
do.
daughters, like, you don't deserve rest. And then they pass
Right.
it down to the sons, where it's like, this is the type of woman you need to get a woman like me who didn't
Yes.
rest. So
We gotta
it's
talk
like
about
this, yeah. It's like that dichotomy right there is just so weird. And like you being a girl mom, how do you, encourage and teach your daughters the beauty of the soft life, whether you build that soft life for yourself or
shut
require
up.
that for
I'm gonna say one thing. Last night I told you my youngest daughter went to homecoming, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
that boy opened the door for her, made sure she was walking on the right side, told her how beautiful she looked, gave her the
Oh,
corsage. I when I went to go pick him up, I was tearing up like this is what I wish I had when I was 14.
yeah,
We've had the conversation so many times with her. She knows what she wants. She knows what she ain't gonna deal with. And it's because, I put up with so much that I tell them what I
yeah,
put up with. But it's just so beautiful to see them choosing and receiving so much
yeah,
better.
yeah,
So that's the
yeah,
beauty of healing is at least being able to teach the next generation.
yeah.
So, I guess we can leave on
Absolutely.
that note.
Absolutely. All right. I'll holler at you later. Thank you for
All
having me.
right.
It's always a good time on Hello Me. Hello Me, it's me.
Yes, indeed. Well, until next time, girl, go pick up your kids and I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. You too. All right. Bye-bye.
You so much for joining me for another episode of Hello Me, It's Me with Nikki D Lovely. Just remember, you can't change who you were yesterday, but you can always learn and grow to become a better version of yourself today. So make sure you do the mental work today for the future you tomorrow, and I will see you next week. And in the meantime, make sure that you check me out on my Instagram at Nikki D Lovely. You can also find me at nikkidlovely.com and check out my book, You Know F Boys Allowed. Just a little shameless plug. But either way, I will see you guys next time, and thanks again. Bye.